It's Stevivor Friendly Fire Show, episode 212 for the end of September 2022. I'm one of your hosts, Steve Wright. It's like I forgot how to do this after 212. And you are Ben Salter, my co-host and friend. Hello, Ben.
That's it. You got it
Welcome
finally.
to another week.
You've only been doing this for nearly 10 years, but you finally nailed it.
Well, I'm sure I'll get good one of these years.
That's right.
Due time. It's probably not going to be today, but that's fine. Anyway, what do you want to do? Internet update? Not internet update? Just want to
how about this? I'll let you know once I've got that fiber. I don't have it yet, but I shouldn't have had it yet, so it's fine. It's still on track.
Well, good. Oops, there we go. I have a Death Stranding update if you want it.
Oh, wow. You know what? Of all the things I thought you might say that's not on the run sheet, it's not that. But anyway, carry
on. Still bad is the...
Right.
That's it. Still bad. Yeah. Played it on PC with Game Pass to try to see if achievements somehow made it any better. And like I was saying, gets a little bit better when you have actual other people to play around with and put bridges up and interact with. But he waffles. I thought I was kind of enjoying it a little bit, and then like it took a turn, and I'm like, I remember this. And then I remember what's going to happen in 20 minutes from now. And it just like, as I got closer and closer to the end of the story, like just my enjoyment just started plummeting to the ground. So,
I don't know why you did it to yourself. You knew what was going to happen.
Just to see if I was based, like everyone on Twitter seems to say, because they don't know how to spell properly. But I am, in fact, not based. I'm just someone who likes actual games.
Yes.
And to that extent, I guess, at the same time I gave The Last of Us a 6.5 out of 10, I also dropped our score for Halo Infinite down to a 7, because what the hell has Microsoft done to Halo Infinite?
A generous 7, I'd say. This game's a disaster. Like, I mean, let's not forget that it missed launch, and it was the big launch game that Microsoft was planning its grand console comeback with. And then they kind of just had to accept that it's not going to be there. They gave it a whole nother year. And then it's missing key features. And so there's a lot of stuff which has changed in Halo Infinite, and we'll get to probably the bigger one in a second.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that we're so far down the line and we still don't have online co-op, very disappointing. But then couch co-op is cancelled entirely. Like, it's a huge part of Halo for a lot of people. And I get a lot of people won't play that. And there are loads of jokes saying, I haven't played couch co-op since like 2003. And good on you, but like I feel like, yes, it did die, and a lot of games don't bother with that anymore. But Halo was one of the ones that still did. And you and I played some Halo 3 in Master Chief Collection last time I was in Melbourne, I think. Like it's a good game just to pick up and play a chapter here or there, or play through the whole thing in a night, whatever you want to do.
And it's an entirely different experience than you and I sitting where we are right now in our respective homes with like a headset on. Like, it's not the same. It's like a LAN. Sometimes it's just fun to go and have a LAN or a couch co-op experience.
It's a thing which doesn't really happen anymore, and that Halo has the perfect gameplay for and still nails. And it's a bit nostalgic, but it's like it delivers on it and it nails it, and it's part of what Halo is. And I kind of feel like 343 has not really even though they've had this franchise for 10 years now, this kind of tells me that they don't really fully get it.
Yeah.
And maybe they've tried to modernize it too much, and that's what's hurting it. Like, it's having some of those links back to the past and what made it great in the early days, and even through to Halo 3 and Reach are probably my favorite two co-op games. It's a bit dated, and it's not something that's common anymore, but it's a huge part of what makes Halo Halo. So very disappointing. We'll still probably try it online co-op, but it's not going to be the same. And it seems now that they didn't design this game with co-op in mind from the beginning like they should have, even though the levels kind of feel like they were designed for co-op. Like, there's multiple paths you can take to get into things. Think about like moving around those bigger areas and planning with other people on how you're going to attack something. But it seems like they didn't plan for that. And again, very disappointing. Like co-op's a big part of Halo and should have been there from the very beginning.
Well, and the disappointing part of couch co-op being cancelled is that couch co-op works in the game right now. There's a glitch going on where you can like fully have couch co-op happening on any Xbox console. The glitch means you have to log in with like a second gamer tag, and you can't do that on PC. So like you can't do it on PC, but you can on Xbox. Works pretty well on Series S and X from what I've seen. Better on X, of course. But I think the real thing that's canceled couch co-op is that if you try running like 4 players on an Xbox One, you can, but like the hardware just can't deal with it. So I feel like, and this is pure speculation, but I feel like this feature's been canceled because they couldn't get it to work on Xbox One with any degree of goodness. So like it's out for everybody. So, but that's still horrible planning. Like, come on. And don't promise it if you can't deliver. Maybe even that is the lesson here. But it was, and it's been canceled.
We'll talk about that a little more in terms of updating last gen versus current gen only games later in this episode. So that's very pertinent here. But even if they'd said this feature is only going to come to, you can play online on any platform, but you can only play couch co-op on current gen, or even if it was you can play 4-player co-op online, but only 2 players couch co-op, and they can play with other people online. Like that's the thing that was done previous generations. That would still be a little disappointing, but it'd be fine. Like I still feel like a lot of people would take playing at couch co-op with one person, even if they couldn't do the full 4. You're still giving us something. So,
and sometimes you need like little incentives like that to like, come on, join the future here. Like get the good one. Let's go. Like it's been a while. Anyway.
Yeah, that sucks. That's probably the worst part for us. But for most people, it's going to be the fact that multiplayer season 3 has been delayed until I think March 2023. Which is a huge delay. It's like over 6 months late from when they said it was going to happen. And I don't know if you played recently. You probably played more recently than I have. But even a few months ago when I last played Halo Infinite multiplayer, it felt pretty dead. Like it felt like it didn't feel anything like it did in its first few weeks. It felt like it was dropping off way too soon. Yeah. And I think we said at the time, we probably said many episodes ago, probably when we were in the 190 still, we hadn't cracked the 200. This game, it just needs something new. It needs new maps, it needs new modes. Like it just needs a quick refresh. It needs something. And it just never came, and they've continued to delay it. So I don't understand why they've gone for live service and free to play. The two things that type of game needs is constant content and a thriving player base. And they seem to not know how to capture either of those things.
Well, and like, what was it? Like, there's things that are really plaguing the multiplayer experience, like in like hitboxes and like lag and server response. So like the easiest way to describe that is you're behind a corner and you get shot and killed. And you're like, well, I was definitely behind that corner by then. Yeah. And like there was
not
a point.
Not on my fiber that won't happen. So
well, in Australia, it still probably will, depending on the server you're playing on. Anyway, there was a point there where 3 for 3 was like, oh yeah, we're kind of not really prioritizing that right now. It's like, no, that is the one thing that you have to prioritize, and everything else. Like hire more people. Like this is your flagship, and you are just like sinking it. You're actively like pushing it further into. You're like hitting it against an iceberg repeatedly. What are you doing? Yeah. And like I will not play Destiny for a while and then jump in and practically be overwhelmed because there's just so much new things and paths and quests and things to do, and like it's I don't like that to a certain extent because it's like overload. But you jump into Halo Infinite, it's like, oh, it's exactly the same as like November 2021. So I guess I've caught up. I could go do something else.
And even if you are happy with that and you want to just keep playing as it is, and you don't mind the issues that it has and the hitbox problems, people will drop away too quickly. So you go from jumping into a game straight away to what's already happening. It takes forever, or you just can't find a game in certain modes. Like it needs it, especially the free-to-play multiplayer game. You need to keep people coming back quickly.
And or you're matched with like the same people who are way too good for you, or are not fun to play against because you're steamrolling them. Like, smaller player base. Yeah. And I think they've already had to, I think they changed it so there was something wrong at launch where like the ping was really bad because you were matching really quickly, but you were matching like really horribly like geographically based. So like Australians, as always, got the raw end of that deal. A lower player base generally just means more pain points for a player.
Yes. So, what do we think briefly they should do from here in terms of the future of Halo? I think I'll run you through 4 quick scenarios. Give me a quick take on each one.
All
Should
right.
they stick with Infinite and try to fix it? Do a Master Chief Collection, revive it from here, and hopefully get a thriving player base back?
Yeah, I think so. I think what I would do, and I think what they were planning to do with this, is tap into the infinite nature of Halo Infinite. And that means you need content and not just multiplayer season 3. Like, we need more single player story. Because I think I settled on a 7 because I really do like the single player campaign. I wish it was co-op in easier ways, but like the campaign is solid. Multiplayer is fun to an extent until you hit that wall, which I think you're going to hit pretty quickly. If this needs to succeed, there needs to be new content on both of those streams. And I don't think Forge counts for most players. I know that there's like a dedicated Forge loving base, but like I want I want a snow section on the ring or like something on the Halo. Like I want to find out what happened to Blue Team. I just want more story because generally I like the Halo story and I like the way that the campaign modes missions were set up. I thought they're quite solid. What is 343 doing if they're not developing that stream and preparing for this infinite season of season 2 multiplayer that never seems to switch over to season 3? I don't know what they're doing. They're developing modes that get canceled. Like, surely they're not spending all of their time on that.
Fixing bugs. I don't know. I think that's why what you just said is why they can't just keep going to Infinite. They need to give up on the Infinite part because they've already cancelled co-op. Like, co-op is dead. Pointless adding more campaign content here. It's wasted on this game. You need to now give us a game that can support couch co-op,
or bring it back and say, sorry, Xbox One, not going to happen. I know we've been saying all this fancy stuff and smart delivery, blah blah blah, but like, draw the line in the sand if you have to. Like, you're pissing more people off than pleasing anyone.
Option 2 that they could go being 343. Should they just go to a proper Halo 6? Pretend this didn't happen. They haven't called it Halo 5, so they've left themselves that opportunity to then... A lot of games do this when they go with the untitled spin-off. Whatever doesn't do so well, I guarantee you Mass Effect is going to ignore Andromeda and say Mass Effect 4. Like, it's a common tactic when something goes a bit wrong. They've got the chance to do it if they went back to something a little more... a campaign that was, 1, properly co-op, and 2, maybe a little more linear, the way that Halo games previously have been. Not that I really like the Infinite campaign, but if that is part of the reason why co-op's not working and it's part of the reason why it's taking so long, maybe they need to go back to what they can actually achieve.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but don't forget this is 343 Industries, and don't forget the last game that they put out was Halo 5 Guardians, which was a steaming hot pile of garbage. So they've already kind of burned that bridge, and I think they went with Infinite to try to get away from Halo 5. So there are problems there.
Okay, so that's definite no, which then brings us to our third option. Do they try another developer? So 343 was custom made to take over Halo from Bungie. They've now had it for about the same amount of time. They've had it for 10 years. But they've never really had a hit. Like, they messed up the Master Chief Collection and they finally made it good, but that was just a collection of old games essentially, and they somehow stuffed it up horribly, and they finally got a good product, but it took 7 years. 4, 5, and Infinite have all been underwhelming, I would say, to different levels of degree.
I liked 4, but yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't Bungie tier level.
Oh, no.
And it's kind of what they were expected to be delivering, and maybe people kind of thought, okay, 4 were finding their feet, and then 5 was way worse. And then Infinite seemed quite promising, but they've totally stuffed it now. And they've just... It's not what a Halo game should be. Do they try someone else? Remembering that Microsoft is going to have so many developers soon. So, like, imagine like a Treyarch, you have your crack at what a Halo game should be. Like, you get a totally different feel and you'd get that refresh from a new developer.
Yeah, I don't... I think there's merit to that, but also, like... I don't know, like, it's a developer in name is only in name. That's not what I wanted to say. A developer, you know what I mean. God, as an example of me trying to articulate what the heck I was trying to say, like, Rare isn't Rare anymore. Like, Rare is not the Rare that you remember from GoldenEye. 343 isn't even like the 343 that you remember from Halo 4. Like, half the people have left. Infinity Ward is not Infinity Ward because that's Respawn, but even Respawn's like changed. So like,
But you lose the baggage at least. Like 343, yeah, it's 343 in name only, but they still have a certain way of working which clearly isn't really working for Halo. And they have expectations, and the next Halo that follows up, people will say, well, 5 wasn't good. Infinite, you totally stuffed up. You're going to stuff up the next one. At least they get away from that. And if someone new comes in, yeah, if a Treyarch comes in now, they're not the same one that made like World at War 15 years ago. But they still have some pretty quality people there. That's just a random developer IP. It could be anyone in Microsoft Suite, or they could even outsource it.
yeah.
It just gives you that it's a fresh start, and it doesn't have to be forever. It could be one game.
Well, yeah, I do see the merit in that, but I guess what I'm thinking at this point is, and I don't even know. I like Phil. I think Phil does a lot of good things. I think Matt Booty seems pretty sound, but like maybe it's you got to figure out where the failure is happening. Like, is it at Phil Spencer level? Is it at Matt Booty level? Is it at like the heads of 343? Is it at like the design lead or the art lead, or like I don't have the answer. I'm not smart enough to tell you what that is, but like I don't know if necessarily a developer change, like a studio change, is going to matter, because it might be someone that one level higher being like, oh, like I'm just like, I don't know if this happened with Halo 5, but like make it more like Call of Duty with a stupid revive system and all that garbage. Like, maybe 343 came up with that themselves, or maybe they had a directive from somewhere higher up saying like, we've seen metrics on these games doing well, so make it more like that.
Could be.
So I don't know. Like, I'm putting up more problems than solving problems.
I think they found the main problem of they don't know, we don't know, nobody knows what to do now with Halo. Like it's Microsoft flagship series, and it's not in a good way, and there's not a clear way out of this. Like, the best game that you can currently play in this series is the Master Chief Collection, because it's a bunch of the old good games, and that's where I would recommend people to go. So that's problematic. I don't think they know what to do. I think they'll probably go with option one and try to improve Infinite because it's the easiest and the quickest, and they can do it right now. But I think yeah, as you say, the strongest part of Infinite is its campaign. It's a little bit different. I already liked it, but the fact that they can't easily add co-op to it is a problem, and it means I think they're wasting their time adding any significant new content there, because it's fundamentally wrong from the start.
Well,
So,
yeah, like you cut your losses. Like I think there's a lot that there's a lot that's been reported on already on this game, and like being rushed out, even though it was delayed a year from when it was supposed to come out. But like, it seems like it was half baked. They wanted to do all this stuff, then they didn't have enough time to do it, so they scaled down and cut this and snipped this. And like, if they gave it a couple extra years, they wouldn't have to worry about the Xbox One release, which would have, like, you know, freed up more processing power to probably do couch co-op. Like, it's just like, there's so many points of failure, sadly, on this. Looking at it now, like, I don't know if you can fix it. You probably just have to go like, Halo Infinite +1 is the next game, like Schoolyard Counting, or I don't know. Hey, I guess Halo 6, or just keep giving them stupid names. Halo Harbinger, or I don't know. I'm gonna copyright that. I don't think I can copyright that. I don't think I have the capacity.
Yes, well, we don't have any answers. I don't think Microsoft does either, and that's the problem. And essentially, so Xbox has turned themselves around from the very beginning of the Xbox One generation going horribly wrong to now. Like, they're a totally different company in how they market themselves, what they're doing, their products. But then their flagship title, which was great, like the whole 2 generations before that, is in its worst state ever. Like, it's interesting that now that they've kind of let that one go by the wayside, because they've got so much, they had to fix so much else. And the thing which was probably still working at that point in like 2012, when the Xbox One was being planned and about to be released, is the thing which is now just not worked out at all. So
Yeah,
they've saved their console. Maybe they can save their flagship series.
and the mind bending thing here is that, like, the core of Infinite is pretty good. Like, the campaign is great. It'd be nice if you could do it in proper co-op. It was promised, that got canceled. Okay, like, that's there in the problems there. Nothing new has come out in single player since it's been released. multiplayer is also stagnant. Like, it's just, there's these problems, and not only has, like, just, like, there's no new content, but, like, the problems haven't been fixed. And then, like, more problems have arisen. Like, how is this happening? It's been a year, almost a year, since the game came out. Like even Avengers got better. Like, how have you dropped the ball? Like, how are you not just throwing buckets of money at this problem to try to fix it? Like, surely something more could have been done.
Yeah, it's a strange one. Nothing we can solve today, so let's move it along to Microsoft confirming that Call of Duty will remain on PlayStation. As if we didn't already know that. Phil Spencer pretty much clarified comments he made when the Activision Blizzard merger was first announced. He was a bit vague then. He's now come out and said pretty definitively, even beyond the current contracted state that PlayStation has COD for, which I think is 3 or 4 years, 4 more years as the marketing deal. Yep. It will still come to PlayStation for a few years at least beyond that. And I can see why he hasn't said any further beyond that, because now we're talking about a decade, and who knows what's going to happen then. So I think that's a fair amount of time. Only came up because UK regulators have been asking some questions, and it was a little strange. Like, it is their job, but they were really prying into this exclusivity thing as if exclusive games haven't been a thing for the whole time games have been around. But at least out of that, we got some clarification. They're going to do, I think, what they did with Minecraft, support it on as many platforms as possible, because it's just such a juggernaut that that's the best way for them.
Yeah. Well, they make a whole bunch of money out of it too. Like, if you say this is only going to be on Xbox Game Pass, there will be some people that go, okay, I need to buy an Xbox, I guess. Or there'll just be some people who are like,
easier.
Yeah. Well, and, like, if Sony's not trying to, like, revive, like, Killzone or something in response to Call of Duty potentially in a decade even going away, I would be very surprised. So, like, Sony's working on, well, Sony's also trying to, like, use these weird exclusivity claims, even though, like, they've signed deals to have exclusive games, and it's okay when it works for Sony, but it's bad when it's not in Sony's favor in those, like, weird Brazil filings. But, like, Sony's also going to be trying to find a thing, or Sony's going to be pivoting and, like, Bungie, make us a Call of Duty kind of shooter. Like, if we can't have it, we'll fill the void. Which is, like, it's competition, and that's kind of the good thing. Like, competition begets success and improvements, and trying to claw your way to the top, and it's healthy. And that's why there are anti-monopoly things.
But I think Xbox really want to have Destiny as well. I mean, so it's not a Call of Duty level seller, but it's a pretty big game, and so that's a pretty easy one to be like, well, we'll keep Destiny on Xbox as long as we keep Call of Duty on PlayStation. Handshake agreement, we will make a bunch of money. Like, there's not really a reason for them to stop doing this. I think all Xbox will change is the last few years, the, like, map packs and stuff have come to PlayStation about a month early. I think they'll either end that entirely, or they will switch that around and the maps come to Xbox first and PC first. Basically everything but PlayStation.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't surprise me if, just to make sure they don't piss off any regulators, they just ended that. Just all maps content comes to everything day one, which would be better. That would be my preferred option.
Well, and, like, I think they'll do that because there's that added bonus of, if you're a Game Pass subscriber, like, you're not paying for you are paying for the game as part of your subscription, you know what I mean? But you're not outputting that extra $100 to get the game, and then you're just getting the maps alongside everybody else, and that, like, cross-play, cross-progression, like, player counts are good. Like, it benefits every single person, and helps Sony's bottom line, and helps Microsoft's bottom line. Like, it's a no-brainer. So, and, like, it's too big of a platform. It's like, Minecraft hasn't been pulled from Switch and from PS4 because it's too big of a
Which also is kind of a great example of, they haven't done this. Like, they've had a similar situation in buying Minecraft, and they actually put it on more platforms than it was on originally. It's like a 3DS version of Minecraft now. So I think they've proven that for such big franchises, it's actually in their benefit not to rip it off one platform, especially their main competitor, because especially with a game which is cross-platform, and that's why it's so big. Like, you get a game in COD like that because you've got so many players. If you want to know what those icons mean, just Google it on Stevivor. There is a article explaining it, because I didn't understand for so long.
And then you wrote it just to clarify. Yeah, good job.
I did write it because once I figured it out, genius moment. That was ages ago. That was like Modern Warfare.
Matt, it still does pretty well, dude. Don't you?
Yeah, that's right.
Be mistaken.
No one understands that. Anyway, great solution. I think the people getting worked up about this, once again, there's like this weird resurgence of the console wars, mainly on Twitter, but also on like forums and stuff. And they're the people who care. Xbox and PlayStation are pretty happy just to make money and to have, if that means being on more platforms, that's the way to do it. So that's sorted. The only other thing we already learned is that old games such as COD, Diablo, the original Overwatch, because Overwatch 2 is free to play, those type of games will come to Game Pass. That is their plan. Except for campaign.
Kind of right and kind of wrong. Because Overwatch will be completely replaced by Overwatch 2, so will not be available. Right. But yes, all the old catalog apart from Overwatch. That is a correct statement.
Yes, so that's. I think we guessed that would happen, but I suppose good to have confirmation. They didn't mention any other franchises like your Tony Hawk type of things. I imagine like the more recent games there will. Activision actually has heaps of licensed games in the catalog. You could get a Spider-Man game, being that they did heaps of them.
Oh, they were really good. Those Treyarch ones. And Beanox, they were really good. Shattered Memories or whatever. Anyway.
I'm gonna suggest most of those won't because of licensing issues, but maybe, you never know. And I do think there's maybe a slim chance, even though Xbox has said we're done with back and pat new games. If they end up with a bunch, they stopped it for two reasons. One, there's some technical issues with the few games and licensing issues.
Yeah.
Once they get all these licenses for a bunch of Activision games, so not the third-party licensed games, but your Tony Hawks and that type of stuff, they should probably, a lot of those might become back and pat. They did heaps of they pumped out a lot of games in like the mid to late 2000s. Activision, they published heaps of stuff. So
there's a ton of like really good Star Trek games that Activision published, but like I think that'll be a licensing thing again, like Spider-Man. But like you never know, like maybe they can arrange it, and if Microsoft's going to drop all this money on Activision, they're probably prepared to drop more money to try to re-secure or re-sign or however that works. I'm not super versed on all this legality. Yeah, and you never know. Fingers crossed.
You know how you could play all these games in the future is by sharing a Game Pass Ultimate subscription through the family. No, it's called Friends and Family Game Pass subscription, which has only been announced for Ireland or revealed somehow through marketing for Ireland.
Ireland and Colombia were the test beds, and I think they're now like officially out of beta, and it's legit.
They're getting it.
Yeah.
So it costs about 33 Australian dollars a month, but maybe I can see that being bumped to maybe closer to 40, but that's still a good deal for you plus for other people to share your Game Pass subscription. That's not that exciting. You're probably wondering, why are you chatting about this? Because this is actually a hugely different way to do a subscription service in that they've, called it Friends and Family. It's not just your household. And they're pretty actively saying, you get 4 other people and sign up together and get a much cheaper rate. And we don't, as long as they're in the same country as you, and I know that's kind of annoying for your situation, but in the whole, I can see why they've done that, because otherwise people will do what a lot of people do with Spotify, and they just go to the Indian subscription through a VPN and you get a super dirt cheap price, and that has a lot of dodgy people telling that type of thing.
Yep.
So I can see why they've had to put a lock around it somewhere. Country is very generous. So you and your mates can actually get together, you can collaborate, you can get cheaper subscription, and that's totally fine. Whereas Netflix is actively trying to stop you, like they're investing millions to stop that happening, and it seems to be a losing battle.
Well, Netflix used to be all about password sharing, and now it's cracking down so hard because it's losing subscribers. And I'm sure so like it's insane to think that you in Adelaide and me in Melbourne, when our current Game Pass Ultimate subscriptions end in like 2027, the way that we've stockpiled, like we could save a bit of cash, especially if we grabbed Gaetano and 2 other people and just pooled in 5 people.
So I think the bigger story is if Xbox does this and it gets enough people signing up to that, it's much harder for someone like Netflix or Amazon or whatever to stop that, because what's their reason for it then?
Yeah.
Like if someone as big as Microsoft is saying, you know what, we understand that. And I think the main thing is, like with Netflix, if you buy the 4-user Ultra HD account, why can't I have 4 people using that? What I'm paying extra for, the slightly higher resolution, but also to have 4 users. Therefore, I should be able to pick my 4 users. And they're like, no, you can't do that. It's just like, that's what you're telling me. I think Xbox is kind of going with they're trialing it, so they haven't committed to this, but it seems much more legitimate. And I think it will put pressure on those other services, which is great for everyone.
And I know like we're in very specific use cases here, Ben, but um, it's like I'm seeing extra value depending on how you use Xbox. So I have a Game Pass subscription, and the home Xbox is downstairs, and my husband uses it, and he gets to do this and that and the other, but he doesn't get like Xbox Game Pass perks. And he was playing like multiverses or something, and you could get like 3 character skins as a perk, and he went to try to get it, and it's like, oh well, you don't have Game Pass. Too bad for you, because it's my Game Pass, and he just gets to use it when he plays. But like, and your fiance is a great example. There's 4 of us. Like that's almost like the cost of one person's Game Pass if the 4 of us pooled together and we could extend it to the 4 of us on any console that we ever touch. Like that almost is the same cost as us just paying for it individually ourselves. So and you get a 5th person and like it's so like I know that's very specific, but there's benefits even just to thinking like that. And it's not like you're doing it dodgy. You're using the service as it's been intended. Like I have a Spotify family plan, and like we gave it to Matt's parents, and like it's kind of one of those like Netflix style loopholes where like we're not at the same address, so we technically shouldn't, but they haven't like tightened the loophole yet, and we're still okay to do it. But like
No, and
because it's like a little dot point, like maybe they'll change their mind and that gets taken away from us. And it's just like that's not very consumer friendly. So I like that this is kind of just being like, yeah, lean into it. 5 people, figure it out. Like as long as you're in the same country, go for your life. But like I am also paying. It's like the best Christmas and birthday present ever for my nephew to give him Game Pass Ultimate, because then he just has games and he's like, oh, I want to play NBA. I'm like, well, it's on there. I want to play NHL. That's on there. I want to play snowboard game. Well, there's one there too. Like, cool. I'm the best uncle ever. And like, I took a Series S home when I went back in December, and I left it with my dad. I'm like, oh, I'll give you Game Pass. And he's like, oh, I've actually like played a couple things. So now I'm paying for Game Pass for my dad and for my nephew. At least I can roll that into one, and then like maybe hit up my cousins or something and be like, do you have an Xbox? You might as well get in on this, and we'll all save some money. It's just nice. Like it's very in the vein of smart delivery and all these things that is just like you can do something and it's not gonna like you don't have to like try to go to Ozbargain every 5 seconds to try to like game the system. Like we're trying to make it easy for you. And I think there's something to be said in that.
I agree. I think it's because people game the system and they see it's such a losing battle. Like Spotify can't stop you sharing because you use Spotify on the train and going to work and all that stuff. And like, how can they say you're out of the house? Most people are when they use Spotify. So they don't really know what to do, but they want you to stop. I think Microsoft is just seeing this is too hard to really police. So why don't we just be the good guy and say you can do it?
Yeah.
And that puts pressure on the others. And it also, in a gaming sense, PlayStation, they already offer better deals through PlayStation Plus than Xbox does. They offer the annual subscription, which gives you a massive discount. There's nothing like that for Game Pass yet. But if they offer this family plan, which is kind of their cheaper option, PlayStation will respond. And they will give you a better deal option as well, potentially, for a family pass, which, again, is only good news. So putting those two competing with things like that and what's going to be our subscription model is great news for whichever one you have, because they both try to be better. And that's only good.
Well, and it's nice. Like Netflix is running into that same kind of Spotify problem when they're trying to like crack down. Because if you're traveling, which is happening again now that we're
sometimes
kind of out of what's going on, like if you're in a hotel in the U.S., you don't want to have to like go through 15 hoops to watch Netflix because you subscribe to Netflix. And people are like, I don't think it's happening in the U.S., but like wherever they're doing the little trials, like you have to prove that you're you and that you're just like not in the same place that you're normally at, which is just gross. It's like when you go to like I went to Woolies and they have like 3 cameras at those self-checkouts now, and the camera didn't think I scanned and put something in the bag, so then I had to have like the attendant come over and like check the bag and make sure I wasn't being dodgy, and I hadn't been. But like you just feel you feel like guilty just by proxy, and like 2, you're also annoyed that like I'm doing the right thing. Why are you doing this to me? Like it's not a good experience. That's shit.
Terrible. And especially Netflix. Like I barely use it anymore. I've actually downgraded to the HD plan on the basis that why am I paying for 4K things that I never watch? If they did anything like that, if I ever get an alert saying why you're in a different place, are you password sharing, which I do, Of course I do. I pay for my 2 users now instead of 4, so I'm going to give it to one other person. That's what I pay for. I'll just cancel. Like their content is not good enough for me to deal with. I'm already close to canceling. Don't push me, Netflix.
We
I'm on the
generally
point
have every
already.
streaming service, but every streaming service we has a profile called Moochers because that's for Matt's parents. Because Matt's parents helped us buy this house. They were very nice. So if I can give them like a streaming service so they can watch KO or something, by all means. But the husband made it be Moochers because he thought that was funny. But
that is fair.
well, yeah. Everybody does it. Like, come on. You're lying if you don't have a password sharing streaming option with at least one other person.
No, of course you should do that. Absolutely. If you're going to someone for like Netflix India to share with 4 random people you never heard of on Ozbark, then that's next level. But I think most people just share it with people they know. One last thing for this week is to loop back to what we were discussing at some point early in the show. Cyberpunk's first expansion, called Phantom Liberty, is going to be current gen exclusive. What do we think about that, being that this is a cross-gen game which is now releasing content only on some of its platforms? Actually, it came to current-gen consoles later than last-gen consoles. So if you bought Cyberpunk, you were just playing on PS4 or Xbox One because you didn't have a new console, didn't bother to upgrade, maybe you haven't got around to it yet, maybe you can't buy a PlayStation because they cost $800 now. Maybe you loved it, but now you can't play the expansion.
It's 2 years on, and if it's something that's limiting new stuff, like this goes back to the Infinite discussion. Like, oh no, that's horrible, but also like, oh no, that's horrible. I didn't do very good in inflection. That sounded like the same statement, but you know what I mean. Like, oh no, that's horrible. Like, just get a new console. It's been 2 years if you can. It's hard to get them. I'm torn. I don't know.
Yeah, I think ordinarily, so it has been 2 years, and I think that would be, I mean, the next question is where's the line where you could draw it, and I think 2 years is pretty fair, especially since you can carry your save over and stuff, I think that's true.
Maybe I think so.
Can't.
On Xbox you can. No, can you?
If you can't move between generations with the save, I changed my answer. If you're going to have an expansion on one only, you need to be able to move your thing. Anyway, this cross-gen has been going forever, and it's continuing into next year. Like, I kind of feel like maybe they're extending it now. But as you say, like there seems to be issues with Halo Infinite not really working on Xbox One, and that's causing issues. Even though they keep saying, oh, it all just scales and it's all relative, and last-gen consoles don't create issues, we can make it all work. It doesn't seem to be the case, or we'd have co-op in Halo Infinite.
Oh man, even just go look at like the video that I had where I like played the beta test of Infinite on an Xbox One at launch, like a launch one, a Series S and a Series X. Like, you can tell, like, it just looks kind of garbage, to be honest. Like, getting something working just for the sake of it, not great.
Yeah. So I think that's fair. If it's to do with that, and Cyberpunk is a game that had issues just being able to run for a long time. So
much so it was pulled from the PlayStation Store for a considerable amount of time.
We don't want that. And I suppose that's the flip side. If you're now removing that barrier and you're going current gen only, PS5, Xbox Series X, PC only, we would expect no issues like that to be cropping up. We would expect it to be launching in a pretty strong state. Less platforms to worry about. Digital Foundry only has to do one video. Like, it's simple, it's easier. I think it's fine for most people, but absolutely I can see how you'd be disappointed if you had this is one of the games you wanted to play. Say you love Witcher, you played Cyberpunk, you didn't really think you needed a new console yet. Too hard to get one. I can see why there would be a group potentially quite disappointed.
So like, because it's almost NHL season, Ben. I'm talking about hockey some more, but like EA has released a PS4 and a PS5 and an Xbox One and an Xbox Series version of NHL the last 2 years. They do it for FIFA. Same thing for 2K and NBA. I think there's something in that model because there's like the non-Frostbite. No, they're both Frostbite. Yes, sorry. They're both Frostbite, but like one is like, they're two different versions of the game. Like, one has better lighting effects, one has all this extra stuff, all this physics.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, yeah, and like it's different saves, but like in 23 now, like there's cross platform play. So, like, you can be on the old version and play with the new version. It still works because it's like, it looks better for the current gen, but like it's still gameplay and it's just like things. So I'm down for that. I'm also down for like the Gotham Knights thing of just being like, nah, we're not doing last gen. Sorry, like this is proving too hard. We're not going to try to like compromise. We're just going to kill those versions. sorry, see you later. Like, I think the time for compromise has to stop. So
Yeah,
I'm okay. I guess so. In conclusion, I'm okay with the
you're
Cyberpunk
okay with
thing because of the Gotham Knights scenario.
I think absolutely we need to move beyond cross-gen and we should go to just current gen pretty soon if we're not already there. And maybe Gotham Knights is more games starting to do that. But I do think it's a bit different with something like Cyberpunk where the actual game is cross-gen and then you're reaching a point with updates and expansion and DLC or whatever where you're saying, you know what, we're not going to continue supporting the previous versions, which they're not ancient, but they're not new, but they're not ancient. It's not like GTA 5 where they kind of said you need to move your online character over now because we're shutting down the 360 PS3 version. Like that happened years later.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just a tricky time. We haven't really had this before. I think the cross gen between like PS3, PS4 was only about a year, 18 months. And the PS3 version got all the content of every game that came out, and there was probably less DLC and expansion at the time, so it was less of an issue, and we just moved on at some point. So
Yeah. It's
yeah, we
that
haven't
weird,
really
like,
had.
and everyone's sick of talking about it, but like, obviously, there was the pandemic. There's the supply chain issues that are like still ongoing from the pandemic. There's inflation that's like sort of related to the pandemic, and I don't know. I'm not an economist. Like, there's just all these things that seem out of place and aren't always there that are just piling on top of each other, which is impacting video games and everything else. But yeah, like it's I don't. There's not an easy fix. I guess is the other thing.
No, there's no right or wrong. It's just a different thing that hasn't really come up. I think we're generally okay with Cyberpunk doing this, but it's unusual, and it's probably just a state of games at the moment across gen that's gone on longer than usual. And at some point, especially because games last longer than usual, like a couple of generations ago, games weren't getting updates and content 2 years later. Like it just didn't happen. So yeah, it's a different time. We probably need to accept it, and it probably is good news if you have a current gen console. You're probably
Yeah,
going to get a better product. Like, there's no doubt that having to deal with like 4, 5, 6 versions of a game and having different updates and different patches coming on is a problem. Like it's so at least now they still have to do 4 with 2 Xboxes, PlayStation 5, and PC, but 4 is better than double that.
yeah. And I think like with the Xbox, it's like it's more. I think the most of the processing is still the same. It's just like the output. But
Still
again,
testing
I'm
and all
not.
that
I'm not
stuff.
Digital
So
Foundry. I'm not going to pretend I know what I'm talking about.
yeah, that's close enough.
Not a fact-based show. That's it. I think
That's
because
this week.
we
Yeah,
keep going long, dude. We gotta become
that's right.
less verbose. I don't know what's happening next week. I'm in Europe. I don't know if you're gonna do a special like guest star or something, or if we're just gonna have a 2 week hiatus. But I guess you'll find
We'll
out.
let you know. You'll find out. I think we'll try and have a guest star, but it depends on if I can actually find anyone who can. You can never replace you, Steve, but maybe someone can fill in for 2 weeks. We'll see.
You could probably replace me and then ask me never to return. But
Mhm.
that's another story. Don't unsubscribe because we'll be back at least in 2 weeks if we're not there for 2 weeks. I'll tell you
Yeah.
all about Italy. Io uno mangia la bella.
Oh,
The
perfect.
man
We'll get
eats
right in.
the apple. The boy eats the apple. That's still all I know.
All you need.
James May in Italy was great. Like you said, James May in Japan was better because less pandemic stuff. Anyway, I digress. How do we find you on the internet?
I am Ben_Salter, and where do we find all your fancy actual travel overseas photos, which we haven't seen in a long time?
SRightAU. I will try not to be that annoying guy on holidays, but it's definitely going to happen. So sorry in advance, I guess.
Perfect.
All
Well,
right.
we will see you listeners probably next week, but we'll find out, and we'll see you, Steve, in a few weeks.
No pressure.